Tension rises over Mexico City's historic center as thousands gather outside the National Palace to denounce escalating drug violence and the security policies of President Claudia Sheinbaum's administration. The demonstration, initially organized as a peaceful protest, rapidly turns confrontational as groups of protesters move against police barricades, triggering hours of clashes that leave at least 120 people injured, the majority of them officers deployed to secure the area. From the early moments, the scale of the confrontation is visible. Demonstrators move toward the palace, pushing against layers of metal fencing installed to protect the building's perimeter. Police lines, equipped with shields and protective gear, brace as groups of protesters attempt to break through the barriers. The first confrontations erupt around the main entrance on the northern side of the National Palace. Extreme wide shots show crowds surging forward, followed by waves of police pushing back. Mid-range and close-up footage captures demonstrators throwing stones, dismantling metal fencing, and shouting slogans accusing the government of failing to address Mexico's spiraling violence. The most intense moments occur when protesters try repeatedly to knock down the metal fences surrounding the palace. Officers respond with shield formations, coordinated advances, and charges aimed at dispersing individuals pulling at the barricades. Images show protesters lifting sections of metal fencing to use as makeshift shields as they approach police lines. For several minutes, both sides remain locked in physical confrontation. Protesters continue throwing stones as police shield themselves, absorbing impacts from multiple directions. Emergency responders begin to appear around the perimeter, treating demonstrators suffering from cuts, bruises, and smoke exposure. Amid the chaos, one protester shouts directly into a camera, claiming another demonstrator has been detained. Several people can be seen with visible injuries, including one individual with blood on his face. A brief fire ignites on the ground, burning banners that denounce President Claudia Sheinbaum. As police temporarily retreat, crowds expand across El Zócalo square. Wide shots reveal the scale of the gathering. Protesters carrying Mexican flags, handmade banners, and signs calling for justice, transparency, and an end to impunity. One banner displayed reads, "My government embraces narco." Rescue teams move between the front lines and the square, treating wounded protesters, including one with a leg injury. Officers appear visibly exhausted as confrontations extend into the evening. Chants grow louder across the plaza. At several moments, demonstrators shout, "Carlos Manzo no murió, el gobierno lo mató." Carlos Manzo did not die. The government killed him, referring to the recently slain mayor of Uruapan, Michoacán. The chant echoes through the square as protesters march toward the palace, accusing authorities of failing to protect public officials targeted by criminal groups. Throughout the evening, citizens from diverse backgrounds articulate their grievances. Many say they join the demonstration because they believe the government has not done enough to combat organized crime or to ensure accountability within state institutions. Among the first to speak is Samuel Valdez, a 4-year-old student participating in the protest. In a soundbite recorded near the front of the crowd, he says protesters want decisive action from the protesters, government and accountability from public officials. All we want is justice and zero impunity in this government. We're tired of seeing investigation files opened and the government never acting, of power being concentrated across all branches and controlled by the same group. Another student, Valentina Ramirez, expresses similar concerns, describing frustration with what she calls a lack of transparency. She says the government's current approach has created an environment in which criminal activity flourishes. This is one of the most corrupt governments we've ever had. A narco government that has completely given in and that instead of defending the people, chooses to protect the corrupt and the cartels. Government employee Fausto Arroyo Ambriz, aged 51, says he attended the protest to voice what he describes as growing anger among public workers and citizens. His comments reflect accusations echoed by others in the crowd. I'm here to speak out and show how fed up I am with this government, this narco government that is repressing us and killing innocent people. Retired sociologist Clemente Reyes Montiel frames the demonstrations as part of a wider rejection of centralized political power. He warns against what he calls increasing authoritarianism. We're going to fight until the end. We can't allow Mexico to become a dictatorship like Venezuela or Cuba. Mexicans are fed up. Nearby, Chef Rodolfo Cesar Tapia Flores criticizes the relationship between the ruling party, Morena, and opposition legislators. He claims elected representatives who challenge the government face intimidation or obstruction. Opposition senators and deputies are being silenced by Morena's senators. Morena is a disgrace to this country, and Claudia Sheinbaum, the authoritarian who governs it, belittles us. The crowd continues to grow throughout the afternoon, forming long columns that stretch across El Zócalo. Protesters march with flags, photographs of victims of violence, and printed messages directed at federal authorities. Many carry signs accusing the government of failing to dismantle criminal networks or address the surge in homicides across several regions. Around the National Palace, police units rotate to manage exhaustion. Footage shows officers forming tight lines near the main gates, taking defensive positions as demonstrators advance. Some police raise their hands to signal de-escalation, but the clashes resume repeatedly as different groups surge forward from the crowd. Protesters continue attempting to pull down sections of the metal fences, resulting in renewed physical confrontation. Several officers fall back as pressure mounts from the front. Images show protesters lifting the fences and using them as cover as they advance. As night approaches, visibility drops, but the confrontations persist. Fire from burned banners casts a brief glow along the palace wall. Emergency teams remain active across the square, tending to the injured and guiding people away from the most violent areas. By the time the clashes subside, officials report at least 120 people injured. Local authorities indicate that most of the casualties are police officers, though a significant number of protesters were also treated at the scene for injuries ranging from fractures to smoke inhalation and blunt force trauma. City officials confirm that the National Palace did not experience a security breach and no major structural damage was reported. However, multiple sections of fencing were destroyed and several police vehicles sustained damage in the confrontations. Demonstrators dispersed gradually across the surrounding streets shortly before midnight, though many vow to return. Their signs, chants and testimonies highlight long-standing tensions around security policy, criminal violence and the perceived concentration of political power within federal institutions. The protest ends after hours of sustained confrontation, but the underlying grievances remain unresolved. Authorities continue assessing the full extent of the injuries and property damage, while civil society groups monitor developments closely. The situation in Mexico City remains tense as the government faces mounting scrutiny over security policy, the rise in organised crime and public frustration with what many describe as widespread impunity. The protests concluded with significant injuries and heightened political tensions, underscoring the unresolved disputes over security, governance and accountability in Mexico. As the crowd slowly disperses across the streets surrounding the National Palace, authorities work to assess the full extent of the injuries and damage. City officials confirm multiple police officers required medical treatment, while several demonstrators were also assisted by rescue teams throughout the evening. The government has not yet issued detailed findings on property damage or detentions, and monitoring organisations are continuing to document the Prosit events. With tensions still high, the demonstration underscores growing public frustration over violence, impunity and the direction of national security policy. The clashes mark one of the most significant confrontations of the year in Mexico City, reflecting unresolved concerns that continue to shape the political climate as citizens demand clearer action and accountability from federal authorities.